Welcome to One Woman, Three Views. We'll talk about sex, gender, social class, politics, education, even religion.
Welcome to One Woman, Three Views podcast. It is your host, Sandra, and today we're going to be discussing, do women normally dislike other women who resemble their insecurities? All right, let's get into it.
Wow, that's a good question. I think an intelligent woman, somebody that's secure within themselves, they can look at another woman and admire the attributes that she has without being envious. I think that if you ever have conflict with somebody, sometimes you'll actually find the conflict you have may be an attribute that person has that maybe you lack confidence, the way they carry themselves, possibly the way that they dress. It doesn't mean that you and the other person, you have conflict with, you're going to see eye to eye. It may be the way they carry themselves with those attributes that you admire.
I just think that if some part about you that you lack and someone else has what you desire to have or would like to have, especially if they're very insecure because of their own insecurity, that woman reflects something that they lack. So naturally, they're going to not like that person.
Okay, let's take it further. Let's just say a person maybe they realize they have a certain attitude, and then you meet a female who resembles that same attitude, something you view as your own insecurity. What do you feel will happen in that type of situation where something you have as a flaw, but they are displaying that same flaw that you have?
Then at that point, you can't stand yourself. So if I'm seeing someone or another person reflect something that I have, it's either going to make me do a self-evaluation of myself and fix it, or it's a realization that's a messed up way to be. You don't want to be that way. So it's a means of you to grow in that area.
Well, I'm going to take it a little bit deeper, and I'm going to say, as women, I'm going to take that same subject. What experience have you had where someone has disliked you for whatever reason? Because I believe that as women, we all have come across that. Or if you were the person disliking someone, either or.
I've had that experience in the workplace where I've had female bosses, especially black women, to tell me that they didn't like me because, one, they said I was spoiled or the way I dressed. And they was like, well, why do you have this? And why do you have that? And why you wear this to work? Or why you wear that to work? So they look at what you have as a way to be envious. And we all work in an environment. If you're in a professional environment, you have to go to work dressed professionally. So what is wrong with how I dress? And I think as women, we are very envious of other women that have strived to get to a different level. So, yeah, I've experienced that in the workplace.
I don't know. I mean, I think that, too, it depends on the personality type. I think that, I consider myself an A-type personality, and I go about my way, and I really don't look to the left or to the right. But I don't even notice sometimes that people are watching me, and they're taking in how I carry myself. And I know that I may rub people the wrong way, and then when I find out I rub people the wrong way, and we get to the core of what it is, it's not really me. It could be their insecurity. But in turn, I've experienced that as well, that maybe, for lack of a better word, and not cussing, I bumped heads with somebody, I bumped heads with other people, and when I step back and see that a part of that, me not seeing eye to eye with that person is that they had certain attributes, or things maybe that, a certain way they carried themselves, a certain way they did things that maybe I lacked. But when I sat back and I took that in, I looked at it as a positive of ways to change myself. Now, the individuals to me didn't use that attribute probably in a positive way, and that was where I found conflict with.
I would say my personal experience is that a person may perceive me, whether it's the workplace, work environment, or even personal. They'll say, okay, she talks a lot of mess, but if a person's not willing to take that time to get to know me, or that aggression that people say they see a lot, it's not where I'm always aggressive, because if that was the case, if I was 100% rude and disrespectful and always downing someone or always aggressive, I wouldn't have friends. But there is a balance to it. If I'm comfortable with someone, then we'll joke on each other, but I know when and when not to do that. But there's also a caring side that I don't necessarily show when at work, because I'm at work, So I feel that sometimes, in my experience, there's this perception people have of me, and they're not willing to let it go, even after speaking to me, even after seeing that different side. They still go right back to that perception. Women in general that say, I see this person, like for me personally, like I don't like my legs, but I had someone tell me, oh, I wish my legs were that big. I wish my legs were a little bit smaller. So here I may be envious of another woman who has that smaller legs, but she's envious because she doesn't have bigger legs. Yeah. And I think that until those conversations are had, we simply are just displaying a slight attitude to a certain extent of, oh, well, what's your issue with such and such? I don't like her attitude, or I don't like how she carries herself, or you see what she's wearing. I think it's more so a reflection of either what we wish we had or what we hate about ourselves.
Yeah. Then there's cultural perspectives as well. I mean, I'm in an industry where, minorities are definitely the minority. Most of the times I'm the only minority. And I think that women of color, not just African Americans, but women of color, period, when we display passion, a lot of times, even in the minority communities that we live in, is considered aggressive, or you have an attitude. Mm-hmm. But you could see someone that's maybe not of color who displays that type, and they're passionate about what they do. So I think society kind of puts imprints on us about how or what those perceptions are, and we're perceived a certain way, and unfortunately other women of color feed into that when it is convenient for them.
Okay, let's take it even a step further and say, as a woman, what insecurities do you feel you may have or had about yourself as coming into that womanhood? What insecurities did you have that you either had to overcome, still going through?
I mean, you know what? I just look at it coming into the workforce, or just growing up. I didn't really feel positive within myself. Who I was, what I looked like, how I carried myself. But what my mother, put into me, I never, to me, shared those outwardly with individuals, and I had a lot of conflict with other women with who do you think you are, because inwardly, I had self-conscious things, the way you wear your hair, what clothes you have on, do you speak properly, how do you address people, are you able to actually attract people of the opposite sex, just by entering a room. And in those perceptions, I had insecurities, but other people viewed it differently. So if I saw a person who could do that, you walk into a room, command attention, spoke with this authority, dressed a certain way, and always seemed like they had themselves together, I would look towards that. But it's funny that even though I had those insecurities, there were other people who looked at me and had insecurities about the way I carried myself, and I was insecure of my own self.
I mean, I have where I didn't believe in myself. I looked at other people and would envy how they are. Like when I owned my own business, even though when people looked at my work, they'd be like, you're good and this, that, and the other, but you're your worst critic. And so I didn't think I was good enough. Or when I look at other people's work or their successes, or they've taken their salon to the next level, I just felt I had a fear of failing But at the same time, I had a fear that I didn't feel secure myself to think that I could take it to the next level. I didn't think that I was that good enough. And some part of that fear hindered me from taking it to the next level.
Well, I had a weight insecurity of me growing up. As I got old, I was small when I was younger, but then as I got older, my weight picked up. So when you have friends that are around you that are a certain size, and you look at that and you go, okay, well, I can't wear what they wear. I have to go to a different size. And so the weight was like one of those things when you be like, hey, I'm too fat. I can't, do this, or I can't do that. You want to maybe run, do jogging. I can't jog. I'm too heavy, out of breath. So those insecurities of weight, and there may be other people that is the same size as you, carried themselves in a whole different way. And you look at that and go, how are they so positive about themselves and don't feel negative when I'm feeling negative and we're at that same level?
Yeah, I definitely dealt with two things. One being my weight, because I've always been thick, but I never saw it as thick. I was like, my friends were a size 0 or size 2, the most was a size 4. Here I am. I'm none of those, and I felt like the fat one in the group a lot of times. And I just dealt with a lot of insecurities, even though I was an athlete. I did volleyball, I did track, but here I'm seeing all these other women that or young girls and teenagers that are doing the same sport as me, and they ripped. I'm still somehow, why am I still big? And then as I got older, then I had to deal with my sexuality. The things that my homegirls were into, I noticed I'm not into that. Is something wrong with me? Is this, and religion did play a part of it, but it made me kind of go back into my shell even more because I felt so invisible and insecure in myself due to my weight. And, they're going on dates. Well, I didn't go on a date. They're planning for prom. I didn't want to go. I didn't fit into the role that I was raised of, hey, feminine woman, this is how you act. Well, I don't want to be in a dress. I don't want to go and jump rope. I want to play kickball. I don't want to go on a date with Jimmy. Somehow I'm thinking of other stuff. But maybe I'm weird. Is this a phase? Is this going to just discontinue? But anyway, basically, am I going to grow out of that phase? And the fact of the matter is, it made me actually more depressed. It made me dislike myself more. I stopped loving myself. I actually would lash out, and that's where the joking came from. It was a wall that I built up to protect myself so people could no longer see this sad little girl who wasn't capable of being her true self. So if they were going on dates, I was saying I was going on dates, and I would go on the dates, but I was unhappy. If they were out going to a party, I was at the party, but I wasn't happy. I was still dancing with the boys. I wasn't going as far, but I just was becoming more and more depressed. And it wasn't until I finally went to college, separated myself totally from all that knew me, and I became who I truly wanted to be. And I could be the real me that I had been hiding and scared to be. And that's where I finally had to realize people gonna like you for who you truly are, or they not. And that's when I decided. But it was just years of depression before that. That's at least 16, 17 years of just hating myself.
I think I had some good reinforcement. I think, coming up, I didn't ever feel like I fit into like a certain clique per se, but I was there amongst the clique, if you want to say that. So I mean, me personally, I think it drove me harder to try to succeed more than, than probably dwelling on the insufficiencies. And I think that me growing up, I was probably pretty shapely, but I never realized that until I was almost 30. Like the first time I ever wore a bikini was when I was 30, because I didn't have that self-confidence in myself. But even though I had people in my family who provided that confidence, I wasn't the first choice or the second or even the third. When it came to like going to the prom, who people would choose, people would ask out. I think I was only asked out once in my entire high school year. He was a weirdo. Nothing really happened. but like you say, when other people were doing these things, it did make me wonder. But like I said, I just use that drive to say that nobody will ever be able to put me in a certain category or a certain box. And I think today, that's why I think I have this drive.
Yeah, to just keep going. And that's the thing, is that I feel like as women, we see someone and we say, damn, I want to be like her. I want that. And then in my experience, it's like, it wasn't until I started talking to my friends, the one that I admired that was a size 0, and then I found out she had anorexia. And then I found out the one that was a size 4 had bulimia and hated her body shape. She didn't have the breast and curves that her friend Sandra did. And it wasn't until we started to have those conversations that I realized I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this. And that's the whole thing, is that the point of the depression is feeling like you're alone in how you look. You're alone in your weight. You're alone in how your color, your shape, your hair length, the way you look. And like was said before, why am I not a guy's first pick? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I not being asked to prom? Because that was the real reason I didn't go. Yeah. Why are my friends being invited to a debutante ball and I don't feel that I'm womanly enough to go? I don't like the way I look in the dress. Oh, I have this little pooch here. I don't like how that sticks out. I don't like my legs. There's a lot of things that came with that insecurity that just had me hiding and just feeling like I was never going to be enough. And it even occurred in my relationships. Why am I taking this type of situation? Why am I going through this cycle? I deserve better, right? Or do I? Why do I keep getting in this same situation? I swore I wasn't going to do this again. I wasn't going to have this type. I wouldn't succumb to this type of verbal or physical. How did I get here? And I realized that the cycle continued because it was something in me that knew how to just deal with all that negative, because that's all that I surrounded myself with. That's all that I had been telling me. I wasn't worthy of the love, of the care, of somebody real. And then when I did get it, I shunned it away because I'm like, I don't know how to deal with that. What is this, real love? Real admiration. Someone sees me for the beautiful person I am. I wasn't there yet. And it's taken a lot of self insecurities for me to say, what makes them insecurities? What makes me me? And I stopped being upset about what made me me. And I started to say, I can't change my height. I can't change the way my feet look. If they're too short, or the way they look in sandals, there are things I can't change. I just have to accept that. Can I work on my weight? Yes. Let me at least try and get it stable and get clothes that work for my body shape. So at least I can feel comfortable in what I'm wearing. For years, I didn't even know what to do with my hair, because a lot of my friends had the straight hair and all of that. And my hair is naturally curly, or what they call kinky, and all of this. And, in the Black community, we deal with colorism a lot. I may not be a light-skinned female, and I may not be as dark as a dark-skinned female, but being in the middle means you still get talked about by both. You still deal with, ooh, you shouldn't do your hair like that. You're not, ooh, don't wear that color on your lips. That don't match your skin color. And having to deal with that from just all sides. I think we as women put so much pressure on ourselves to meet society's standard of beauty that we forgot that we were beautiful. We are the standard.
True. I mean, for years, like you talk about the standard, and then you coming into I call it coming into your own. To me, it took friends, good friends, to, just us admitting just through like conversations like we're having now, like we all had insecurities. Like you're saying, I have a good friend who felt like, you know, she always liked my big legs, and we had that conversation, and I liked her skinny legs and wish I was small frame like she was. You know, we're shaped differently, and we have different personalities, and we have different careers. And it was just through those conversations over years with really good friends and just being honest with each other. But we always encouraged each other from college, you know, and actually high school, college, and on, and we still do now, about those characteristics that we, you know, deem to be something that like we admire in each other. And to me, I think that helps, because I do think, I mean, I was one of the people that had a curl for years, you know, and I, for years, I talk about society norms and, you know, certain things about, you know, your oppression or conflict with other people. As far as like females are concerned, I thought I had bad hair for years, you know, and you know, I just so happened to, you know, get in a situation where I couldn't actually perm my hair, and let my hair grow out natural, and realize that my hair is really not nappy. You know what I mean? And isn't that crazy? Because when I was, you know, younger, you know, we all were there, you know, you're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade going into high school, and you're talked about because of this. I had a curl, and my natural hair actually looks like a curl. But to me, I feel like, you know, those people who laughed and joked then, and then they see me now, and my hair is all the way down my back, and it still looks like a curl, and it's mine, you know, it's just funny how society puts that pressure on you. And nobody, no matter what you do, like your family can reinforce it, but it does take, I think it takes a community, meaning like you've got to have good friends that reinforce how you feel, not reinforce those negative feelings that you feel for yourself. So I know I've got at least 2 really good friends, even though, you know, I've got sisters, we all encourage each other. I've got extended family, but it's really like my friends, we encourage each other and feed into each other positivity. And that's what, to me, turns the situation around. But even then, you know, I think I've got really great friends, really great family. And I talk to my friends and family about their insecurities. It's funny, you hold the mirror up and they have the same insecurities that you had. And you're surprised, you know, at how, like you said, you know, what you admire in them, they admire in you. So I think sometimes when we do have that conflict or find a conflict with another female, that if we find common ground, you know, it doesn't always work, because just because you have conflict doesn't mean that other person is an adult. Just because they grown don't mean they're an adult. True. So like if you find common ground, you probably would see that there's really not conflict there.
Okay, so on a website, womenio.com, they say that the top 15 insecurities in women are based on sexuality, weight, hair color, eye color, height, breast size. He won't call me back. He's dating other women. He's not attracted to me anymore. Money, career, creative life, or intellectual life. So with that, I would like to have each of us just name one thing about ourselves that we admire about ourselves. And we'll end in that positive note. We all know our insecurities. We've all been there. We can name probably a billion things that we either may have found wrong or still find wrong. But just name one thing that you just admire about yourself that just makes you you.
Ambitious.
I admire my, actually now I do admire my body. I admire my curves.
My ability to overcome my fears.
I admire my stamina. No, meaning in regards to exercising. When I think to myself, you know, I'm going to go work out, and then it's 2 and 3 hours later that I'm finishing the workout. I'm like, I didn't know I could do that. So that's more so the stamina and endurance, especially when I know it's been months or I'm coming from a cold. I admire that if I say, all right, I'm going to work out, it's not going to be 10, 15 minutes. It's going to be a journey. So I admire that part about me, to be like, all right, let's do this. Plenty of time, me and you have been on the phone, and you was like, did you finish up? And I'm like, yeah. And you was like, wasn't that like 2 hours ago? I was like, once I got started. But I do want to thank each of my guest speakers, Tori, Era and Angela for coming on to the show. And again, we're concluding the episode of One Woman, Three Views podcast. Tune in every Saturday at 9.